What's up, everybody? I'm Ryan Thomas, and welcome to the Thomas Take Sports Podcast, coming to you live from Buffalo, New York. And I wanted to bring you another edition of the Thomas Take tonight and talk about a topic that took me by surprise, a real shock to me. Most of the time with this show, and in case this is the first time you've ever listened to my podcast, this is a show where I talk about, obviously, sports topics, my take on certain topics, whether it be the NFL, Major League Baseball, the NHL, any sort, of topic that catches my attention, that I feel would be engaging for people to listen to, mixed martial arts, boxing, you name it. And I love to bring certain areas of concern to light. But in this episode of the Thomas Take Sports Podcast, this is one that is extremely important. This one is as important as any, because in this episode of the Thomas Take Sports Podcast, I am going to pay tribute to a gentleman that definitely had a huge, monumental impact on my life. A guy a man that really needs no introduction, a man that I refer to as Mr. Weinstein. I respected him that much that I couldn't even call him by his first name. He would tell me, call me Irv. I'd say, no, I can't. It's Mr. Weinstein. Just a true gentleman, a true professional, an honor and a privilege to have known him. Irv Weinstein passed away yesterday at the age of 87 in his home in California, and I posted a picture of him on my Facebook page. So many people reached out to me, sent their condolences, but I only met Irv Weinstein one time. We talked for over a dinner. It was a dinner at the Buffalo Broadcasters Association meeting. It was a Giants of Buffalo Broadcasting, where they paid tribute to the trio, Irv Weinstein, Rick Azar, and Tom Joles. And so many people have asked me, well, how'd you get to meet Irv Weinstein? How'd you get to meet these guys? Keith Radford, Tom Joles, Rick Azar, John Murphy, Van Miller was there, and he passed away a couple years back. So this was 3 years ago. I was a sophomore at NCCC, and I had this opportunity as a communications journalism student to go to this event, and I got to interview Rick Azar for a school assignment, and it was a great interview, an interview that I still have. That one of these days I gotta cut it and put it together and put it out there for everybody. But I got to meet these guys. I got to sit with these guys. I got to eat with these guys, and there were gentlemen that were not necessarily from my era. Some of them were. I remember the days of Van Miller. I obviously know the day of John Murphy, being that he's the current radio voice of the Buffalo Bills. And Jeff Russo was there. Paul Peck was there. Guys that are in the local news world. Don Postles was there. Everybody from the current local news was there of years past and obviously present. And I got to meet Irv Weinstein, and I walked up to him. He walked up to me. My teacher, Pat Feldball, who works in radio for WBEN, he talked to me specifically about this opportunity. And I drove from work that day. And at the time, I worked at Value Home Center. I drove in my rear-wheel drive Chevy Camaro in a snowstorm to the Science Museum, the Buffalo Science Museum, and met up with him. And he said, "I gotta tell you, as you're driving, I want you to put me on speaker because the weather's bad." He's like, "I can get you into the event, but it can't be via ticket. I don't have a ticket for you." I'm like, "I gotta go. What do I gotta do to go? What do I gotta do to be there?" And he said, "Well, if you do some photography for me, you can go to the event and mingle with the guests and meet people, greet people. I'm like, all right, that sounds fine. It's easy, point and shoot. That sounds good to me. So I took photographs for this event, the entire event. The photos were credited to me. The photos of the event were online and were credited. I had my name in the right corner, and I was the photographer. And I had never, had any experience in photography whatsoever. So I'm taking pictures of everybody, meeting everybody. Russell Salvatore was there. A bunch of big names from, the local arena of Western New York. There's so many names I can't even name them all. But I met Rick Azar finally after interviewing him for a 2-hour long interview, where it was like a 2-hour long recorded show practically. That I wrote, and I wrote it out, and I submitted it to my teacher for a school assignment. But knowing I'd get to meet not only Rick Azar, I'd get to meet Irv Weinstein, I'd get to meet Tom Joles, who's from my hometown of Lockport. That was really cool. John Murphy as well. But meeting Irv Weinstein was really, really special. And it's not because he was famous. It's not because of the 38 years that he had working at WKBW. It had nothing to do with his talent, his persona, on the camera. It had everything to do with just our conversations, just our interaction over that, 3-hour, dinner or 3-hour event. And then after party, dinner situation that we all took part in, where I got to actually sit next to Irv Weinstein, and he picked my brain about what my goals were. I picked his brain about how he got to be where he was in life. I mean, literally, everybody was clapping for him. Everybody was taking pictures with him. I said, I want to be like you. And he said, you don't want to be like me. I'm old. And we went back and forth, and I told him that my grandfather, who passed away in 2008, was a huge supporter of his. And I never say fan, because that word is just so, I don't know. I always say supporter, because he did. He supported his ability, his talent, and enjoyed him, in every which way. And Irv Weinstein, upon meeting him and looking stuff up about him, because the main focus was Rick Azar for me, because I had interviewed Rick Azar. He was the radio voice for the Buffalo Bills. Irv Weinstein, I knew was the big name out of the three. He was the anchor. But I didn't know Irv Weinstein. I didn't know what he had done for national news. He was the guy that, outside of the Buffalo Bills, he brought the city of Buffalo to a national level as a news anchor. And I realized that when I had heard some of the quotes and quips that he had spoken throughout his time at WKBW, like pistol packing punks and it's 11 o'clock, do you know where your children are, and things like that. I thought, wow, I got to meet this guy. I got to sit with this guy. I got to eat dinner with this guy. The one thing about Irv Weinstein that sticks out in my mind is not that, not only did I get to meet him, not only did I get to sit with him, but he gave me his email address. And he said, if you need anything, like a reference or, just words of encouragement, because this racket, he said, can be tough. And it is. I mean, so many people think that this is just so easy for me to just come on here and record and give my sports takes and things like that. So many people think that it's so easy, but you can face a lot of criticism, a lot of shaming, and he talked to me about that. Talked to me about, even though he was the big name, he got a lot of, there were moments where he was nervous at how a story would break and how he would break a story, even with all of his experience and, starting in this business at age 15 from, working in this business from when he was 15 to, 1998. A long time, and he even said that he probably wouldn't have stopped, probably wouldn't have retired had it not been for his grandchildren and wanting to see them grow and the constant traveling and working and things like that. Just a true great man. And so many people know him as, what he was known for on the camera. I got to see the guy off the camera. And I mean this when I say it. He gave me all of his time that I could have ever asked for. Not just in that one meeting, but in sending him emails back and forth. I sent him emails back and forth, just asking his advice, what direction to go in, do I focus on writing? Do I focus on the podcast? And he specifically told me to follow whatever my heart desires. And so many people say that, but I actually took it as great advice because that's what he did with his career. He could have done radio, but he wanted to be the main anchor on a TV network for a major city. And he got to do that. So God bless Irv Weinstein, a true great man on and off the camera. A guy that, he took pictures with me. He sat with me. I posted the picture in the body of this video, but he gave me all of his time. And there's people that I've met throughout this journey that I've had where I thought they'd have a big impact. I thought they would give me something, and sometimes they haven't. And sometimes it's disappointing. There's always people that you meet along the way that might have some sort of fame that you think, man, that was disappointing. With Irv, he surpassed any and all expectations that I had because I wasn't going into this meeting, knowing that I was going to meet Irv Weinstein. Originally, my teacher told me that I was going to meet Rick Azar. I had no idea that this was a Giants of Buffalo event at the Buffalo, I think it was at the Buffalo Science Museum. I can't even remember, but it was 4 years ago, actually, now that I think about it. And it was one of the best days of my life. I can honestly say when I look back at my 25, 26 years almost, come April of 2018, that it was one of the best nights of my life. And I'll take everything that we talked about, these emails that I printed today. I felt like I was going to burst into tears reading some of them. But one of the things that he said to me was always follow what is in your heart. If you have a passion for something, continue to strive for it, continue to reach for it, and follow it. Despite what others say, despite what others think, continue to strive for what you believe in. And that was some of the greatest advice that I've ever been given by a man that didn't have to talk to me. He didn't have to take a picture with me. He didn't have to sit next to me during the dinner, but he did. And people say, well, he saw something in you. I don't know if he saw something in me or he saw a part of him in me. I think we had a lot of things in common. We had a passion for very similar things. And although he was, decades older than me, we just had a good relationship. And unfortunately, his health failed over the last few years, and he passed. But to know that he lived a monumental life, has a huge legacy in the world of Buffalo, he's unprecedented. So rest in peace to a great man, Irv Weinstein. I hope that my tribute was fitting. I thought of ways to tribute this man, and I did the best I could. Rest in peace to a wonderful man and a wonderful friend.